We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's 6:05, and we have here tonight Diana Fetterman, and you're representing the Conservation Commission now. And Charlie, you are the at-large person at this point.
Okay,
and
cool.
Janet Brown is representing CPC. Chris Fowles is a guest. Maureen Groden is from Select Board, and I'm from Planning Board. We know Parks will not have a representative tonight because they actually are meeting right now. And we think we're getting somebody from Friends of Open Space. We hope. A couple people said they were going to try to make it. And I have not heard from April. So don't know whether she's able to make it tonight. Let me open this up a little bit. So the first point of business is to ask if there's any public comments from anyone who is a guest. Chris, do you have any specific public comments tonight? Okay, we'll get you. We know it. Secondly, has everyone have a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting, which were of the 10th of December? I can call them up if necessary, but if you've read them and, anybody want to discuss them, or shall we have a motion to accept?
Well, I will accept, except as you mentioned to me, my name was left off as an attendee.
Your name was what?
Left off, I think, as it being attending.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Yeah, that's right. She was there. So that is a correction, Diana, for.
Oh, wait, sorry, I wasn't listening. Sorry.
It was so.
There was one correction on the minutes of December 10th.
Yes. What is it?
That Janet Brown was there. She was present.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. And any other? So based on that, you are moving to accept. And do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And is any further discussion or any corrections of any kind? Okay, all in favor? I think we'll do the roll call. Charlie?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Rini?
Aye.
And Cindy, yes. Okay, so it was unanimous for the people present. Committee reports, because we had a lot to do tonight, and also because I'd really like to keep this meeting, if possible, to no greater than an hour and a half, if possible. I'm going to ask people to remember to give committee reports based on specific issues related to open space. And I will start just to say the planning board held a public hearing, finalized it in December, completing the review of the draft of the new stormwater bylaw and regulations. And from that point, we do have a draft. It's now going to be proposed to be a part, I believe, of the next town meeting for ratification. So that's kind of positive. And also, last evening, which was our planning board meeting of January 20th, we had a presentation from our town administrator, Ed, and he went through the goals and strategies of the draft open space and recreation plan, and requested planning board discussion and approval, and that was approved, and a letter will be submitted, and I believe the draft is already with the state right now. We're not really sure what the state will do with it. They might ask for some clarification or corrections, and we're hoping that that'll get approved. So that's where I believe it's at right now. Okay, and Conservation Commission, who can speak on what's happening related to open space with Conservation Commission?
Well, I think I went to their last meeting. I can't remember exactly when it was, a couple of weeks ago. And I stayed for a long time, and then my internet kicked me off. And that in the time that I was there, they were talking mostly about this problem with the high street. So I don't think there was anything while I was there to do with open space. Sorry.
Okay,
I wasn't, really prepared to do that then.
all right. So let's leave that as unless you want to add anything, Charlie, were you there at that meeting?
Well, I wasn't at that meeting, but I know they're still proceeding with the Manhan Meadows and the implementation of that grant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think have got some estimates of various costs of clearing it and so on. But that's about it.
Yeah. Well, they did clear some of that storm damage.
Yeah.
That's done. And yeah, we're trying to get the Manhan Meadows Phase 1 grant that we received out to bid. And we may need some help from the select board to make that happen. I don't know. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there any developments on Clearwater?
Not that I know of, no. I do know that the Concom has been up on Pomeroy Mountain, and they're doing some stuff up there, but that wasn't at that last meeting. So should I wait till the next meeting to report on that?
Yeah, I think Mala mentioned to me on the phone that they've discovered a marijuana patch up on.
Oh, she didn't tell me that. She must not trust me.
Yeah, so anyway.
It's not there anymore.
Oh.
It's not there anymore?
I don't know. I didn't even know about it. I said probably not there anymore.
Huh.
I don't know.
No, they're really hopeful about getting that trail underway with the SCA help. The
Yeah.
Student Conservation Association. They said they would do it. And that's
What trail?
on Durrell
Durrell
Path.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And they said they would do it. They just have to get it into their schedule, and but because there's no other cost involved, the Concom can pay for it with the money they made from logging that area. So it's really a good deal, I think.
That's
How much
great.
money did they get from logging it? Do you remember?
I don't know, but I do know that the SCA for 2 weeks, 10 days, 5 crew members is $8,200. And Marla thought that they could pay for that. And if they didn't have that much work there, they could work somewhere else. We may all have to house these people, these young people. We'll see. But
Does everyone know what SCA is?
Student Conservation Association. So that's why it's urgent to get the Manhan Meadows contract out to bid, because they're very interested in helping with us with that. And we want the language to say that whoever gets it is strongly encouraged to use a youth corps. And SCA has to get their schedule set up for this coming year very soon. So we just feel we'd get more value if we use them, because right now they don't have to meet the prevailing wage thing. They're exempt from that.
Do they correspond to volunteer work? Satisfaction for that?
No,
for
that's
that
not
grant?
part of the match. We still have to, no, this is part of
Okay.
the contract that would go out to bid, and so
Okay.
the contractor would subcontract with SCA. So, but they have a good reputation, and some of the consultants we've used are really enthusiastic about them. So we'd like to do that. We just got to get it out to bid. And it's also important to get it out to bid because this is probably TMI, but we're about to apply for more Mass Trails grants. And if it doesn't look like we're doing, what we should be doing with that first one, I think it's a demerit. So, okay. I think that's it.
And Chris, you attend Concom meetings. Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, not offhand. I think that covers it. It was really related to that. I'm trying to remember the figure, Rini. I should know that about the logging. What comes to my brain is 19,000, and I'm not sure if that's quite right. But some decent amount that they got from the logging on.
Wow, that would be great.
Yeah,
I'm
that
thinking,
is
I'm
good.
thinking it was. I'll check it up and I'll send a note just to let you know.
Yeah,
I
that-
wish we could get, just kind of brainstorming here, I wish we could get some of those logs out of Manhan Meadows, because there's some
Yeah.
big ones down there, but I don't know how they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not with a wagon.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Select Board, Rini, do you have anything to add?
I think the only thing to mention is that, and I'm meeting with Ed tomorrow, so I'm going to find out, but we're still waiting for the MVP committee to be put together. And he had told me that there was only one more representative he was waiting for, but this is, this is too late down the, like he is supposed to get back to us right away about giving us a date for a meeting. So that's the only thing. I expect that to happen sooner rather than later.
I guess I did ask him a while back, wouldn't it be helpful to have somebody from Open Space Committee on MVP?
Absolutely.
I don't know if anybody has been approached. I have not, so I didn't know where that stood.
Well, I'll talk to him tomorrow. I offered to be the representative from the select board. I don't know who else signed on from other, what about planning, do you know?
It did not come up. Last night there was a planning board meeting, and my experience is that I'm the one that volunteers for these sort of
Yeah.
extraneous ones. And so I don't believe he approached, I don't know for sure, but I don't think he approached anybody on planning.
Yeah. Was anybody else in this committee approached about being on MVP?
Oh, not me.
No.
All right, I'll find out tomorrow, but it would make sense from someone from Open Space to be on there, absolutely.
I'll try to, I'm putting myself out to be available if that's the case.
Okay, thank you. I'll find out tomorrow.
Great, thank you, Rini. CPC, Janet?
Well, not really, because we still have not met, but we hope to meet on February the 3rd, and Charlie and I were just talking. He has a proposal that he's going to present, and if anybody else knows anything, because Virginia's looking for proposals, we meet on the first Wednesday at 5:30 every month. The other thing I wanted to say is I did put that poster up. I gave it to Lucy, and she's going to put it in Town Hall, and I put it at the town dump. And I tried to put it at the library, but they said no one's going to the library, so there was no reason to do that. So I did put that poster up at those two places.
And didn't you also get the Council on Aging to put it in their
She said she'll put it in the next issue, yes.
next issue? Okay, good.
February issue, probably.
Okay, good. So we haven't seen hide nor hair of April yet, so we don't have a report from assessors at this time. But I will add, and I think I forwarded it to everybody. Remind me if I did not. Martha Leamy, our chief assessor, or what do they call her, primary assessor, she put out, I think it's an Excel sheet of all the lands that are currently in her data bank as being in chapter 61 or 61A or 61B. Did I forward that to everybody here? I know I did to Janet. Did everybody else get a copy of that?
I did not,
did.
not the most recent one. I had one from the past.
Okay,
I got it.
I will send it out to everyone except Janet and Diana because they got it. It is of interest to have it, as to what lands are in, especially if you're looking at your own map assignments and wanting to know whether or not they're currently still in chapter. Okay.
Cindy, I had a brief discussion with Martha, and she sent me something that shows not only those, but I think it also shows lands that are maybe, I don't know if they're really considered abandoned, but where, I'm trying to think now if their taxes are, if taxes are not being paid on them, maybe. I got it a couple weeks ago. I have to actually really look at it carefully. I need to do that. And if it's relevant, I'll send it to you, though.
Oh, thanks.
Can I just pipe in for a minute, Cindy?
Oh, hi, Allison. Sure.
So I'm Allison Wondruska. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Friends of Southampton open space person, and I'm really sorry. I had this for 6, and then my brain said 6:15, and so anyways, I apologize, but hi.
Welcome.
I'll probably leave early on top of it, so there you go.
Well, you're a busy person. So just let me finish this particular topic, and then we'll get to you, Allison, and thanks very much. So Martha has a list of potentially lands that maybe are in arrears on their taxes or something like that. Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, because we were looking for parcels that might be able to be bought by the town. There was that one that had come up on Buchanan Circle about a month or so ago, and then anyway, that's a different story. But Charlie had mentioned to me, Charlie Kanicki, that there were some, and I'm using the word abandoned because I can't think of the right term, but there were 2 or 3 parcels on Middle Road, I believe, that looked like, the houses are empty and nobody's been doing anything with them. They've been empty for a long, long time. And so I was trying to figure out who those places were. And I'm not sure if they're on that list. I haven't had time to verify if that gave me my answer or not.
Okay. Well, every bit of information like that can be useful in some way. What is going on with that abandoned or whatever it is, the Buchanan Circle property, or is that not for discussion?
No, well, nothing at the moment. No, we just told the person, I believe, that we were not going to be doing anything with it. Now, there's a landowner that wanted to buy that parcel, and we told her that we wanted to just explore all of our options as a town before we did that, because we're also looking for affordable housing sites. I mean, that was part of my query. It wasn't totally for open space. It was also looking for possibilities where we could have some affordable housing located.
Great. All right, thank you. Allison, we're doing committee reports at this time in our agenda. So actually, I skipped over you. I was fortunate to be able to attend your last meeting, but did you want to give this group any specific information about what's going on with Friends of Southampton Open Space?
In a brief few sentences, we're still a baby group that is trying to get moving and generate enthusiasm within the group and figuring out ways that we can then impart that to the town. Our mission is to generate funds that can be used for the open space. And to that end, we are going to start doing some sort of programs for the public at the properties to try to have people come see the properties and maybe do some sort of guided hiking walks, those kinds of things. We did approve money for a bench for the Hazel Young property, which name I can't quite remember. Manhan Meadows. And we're still working on becoming an official nonprofit. But we do have a bank account. We do have a website. We do have a logo sticker. We're getting there. It's just slow.
I did have a thought. I think because of COVID, a lot of places that used to take recycle bottles and cans and stuff like that for a long time were not available. And where I walk, I am just appalled at the amount of cans and bottles and, frankly, trash. I didn't know, years ago, I went to University of Vermont, and I'll tell you, Vermont was big on green and Earth Day and all that stuff. And we had kind of an Earth Day cleanup situation in Vermont way back in the day. I just didn't know if that was something that would be considered as a kickoff, clean up the town kind of thing, or not. Just a thought.
It's a good thought to raise. There was a time when there was, like, I know the church for a while did clean up along Route 10. Other people have done that. We can bring that up.
Anybody else want to throw anything out for them?
Adopt a highway with the state. I don't know if they would go into properties or not, but Adopt a Highway goes up and down Route 10 if they can get a group to do it. Our Boy Scout troop did it for years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have the link to Allison's to the board. If anybody has thoughts, I can forward them on to Friends of Southampton Open Space if you get them to me. Thank you, Allison.
We meet the second Thursday at 7 of every month, and anybody is welcome to attend. So just if you go to the website, which is fosos.org, there's a link and you can send us an inquiry and we can send you all the Zoom information. We haven't started posting our Zoom meetings on the website yet. We don't want to get Zoom bombed, but if that's still a thing, I don't even know. But that's the way to get hold of us.
Having said that, we have a little problem. If you remember, Open Space Committee was right on the same night of the FOSOS meetings. And that's why we changed till the third Thursday for this month. But then I discovered that's the Parks Commission's meeting. And that's pretty critical to to Open Space. So we don't have our Parks representative tonight for that reason. They're there. Is it in steel that or is it in blood that you have to meet the second Thursday? Could you change to the third Thursday?
Oh, we probably could. I can bring that up. I don't think that is a cemented date. It was just Thursdays seemed to work. Why don't we do the second one? I think Thursdays work. We could do the third if that would be. It would be
helpful. And then we could go back to the second, and our full representation based on the other town meetings could be.
That's fine. We can. I'll bring that up. I don't think it's a problem.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Great. Thanks, Allison.
Yeah.
If there's anything else for her, or should we move on? Okay. So now we're up at old business, and I'm gonna. And if you have to leave, Allison, at any point, feel free. Stay.
Don't worry. I will.
You're busy. I know. Okay. I'm going to do a share screen right now. The first thing under old business is the project that Charlie's spearheading regarding the Barnes Aquifer educational brochure and map. And he got a, let's see here. Here it is. He got a draft today. There we go. Everybody see that?
Mm. Yeah.
I'm going to let you talk about what's going on, Charlie.
Okay. We're, I think in the past we've discussed this project and it seemed to be supported with the Open Space Committee, and it is allied with the third objective of our open space and recreation plan, in which we continue and strengthen homeowners' education and awareness about the importance and vulnerability of the Barnes Aquifer. So based on that, Cindy and I talked to the Water Commission and made contact with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and we did have success in getting the local technical assistance just about 2 or 3 days worth of their support to do work in developing the map. And so, and we're going to have to, in addition to the map, and the first draft of it came today, it's shown there. Now, the overall objective of this project is to acquaint the residents with the Barnes Aquifer, where it is. This map hopefully will do this, but any additions you'd like to add to it would be appreciated. In addition to that, we would like on this brochure some of the written documentation of what a homeowner should have the responsibility of to minimize any pollution that gets into the aquifer. And one of the key things here is not to make it too complicated. And if you go to the town website, you'll see, I don't know, under the Board of Health, you can find some documents. The Massachusetts Barnes Aquifer Regional Solutions Protect Large Sole Source Aquifer. There's a lot of documents there. And there's also your drinking water supply. They're both documents. We'll have to distill from those documents some information to put on a brochure. In addition, we're anticipating, I think it was discussed in the past, that some posters, fairly decent sized posters, which would have this map and have them in the town hall, the library, and the school. So we have progressed to the point
So one thing, my thoughts, it's really a great start. I'm perfectly satisfied with the location of the aquifer and high yield versus medium yield and drinking water supply protection. All of that is really critical. I think it would be great to get, as long as they're putting conservation areas on there, to get our newest big one, which is Clearwater Woodland, which is on 111 Glendale Road. So that's one thing if you're taking notes. And because they've got Pomeroy Mountain there, and because I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about Little Mountain, which is up off Maple Street, I wouldn't mind seeing that kind of designated with just Little Mountain, someplace, where it's supposed to be. And the other thing, Charlie, is that all the CPC funds, any project has to go to town meeting and has to be approved at town meeting, which, is necessary.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, unless somebody can tell me, do we know when the next either special town meeting or all town meeting is going to be? Does anyone have an idea on that, Rini or Chris?
Yes, that just came up because of the wetlands bylaw, and I think the email. It's actually in my email. Is it the 1st?
I think it's maybe the 4th of May.
The 4th, yeah, it's the beginning of May. I think let me just look at my email.
Let me grab my phone here, Smith.
Also, what's Parsons Memorial Forest?
That's part of Manhan.
That's adjacent to the Meadows.
Manhan Meadows.
Yeah, Manhan Meadows.
Might you want to call it Manhan Meadows instead?
I think it was 2 parcels that were joined.
Actually 3.
Yeah.
The Parsons Memorial Forest, Manhan Meadows, and Howland Conservation Area.
Yeah, Howland's relatively recent, yeah.
Oh.
Well, maybe we should have all 3 mentioned.
On the map, are you talking about the map?
Yeah, would it be too crowded?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
I think identifying all those parcels that are particularly set aside for water protection or aquifer protection, and also designating the critical conservation lands. I think in some of the emails that have been going back and forth, we mentioned Manhan Meadows, also Wolf Hill, and those are some of the major parcels that could be identified. Again, orienting people. The object is they look at the map and they're oriented to say, aha, this is where this aquifer is relative to some very familiar things like the town hall, the school, and the library.
Mhm.
That's the overall, because these maps can get very complicated when they start having elevations and all that sort of stuff associated with them.
Yeah.
And if they get too detailed on the roads and so on, you can look at them and they get so congested that the impact on a typical resident to say, we have a water issue in this town, we should be sensitive to it, this is the aquifer, and these are some of the regulations you should track on whenever you do cleaning and fixing your car and all that sort of stuff.
But I think that marrying the aquifer land or with some of the conservation lands makes sense. So people would know. And since Manhan Meadows is a parcel that people are will be once it's habitable, I guess, will be encouraged to visit, that might be better to put that on. And yeah, Wolf Hill and anything else. I don't know what Pleasant Street Conservation Area is either. Is that land that people can go visit?
Yes, it is. It's a mystery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Is that the Alice Brown property?
Yeah.
I assume so. So that's the wrong name for it. I don't.
Yeah, the name isn't right.
So that's Chris. It's Alice Brown Conservation Area. Is that right?
I believe. If that's what they're trying to show there, I think so.
I think that is it. That's what they're trying to show. Again, we just got this today and there's some typos in it. So
yeah, and I would think if you I would agree with Allison. If you wanted to leave, Parsons on there, fine. But I mean, I think Manhan Meadows is generally more known. Nobody knows, places that people know already definitely need to be there. And even, I guess I'm not seeing it, but I'm just wondering, like the two parcels, the two areas that we have protected for watershed specifically over on Cookton County Road, and then the latest one on Pomeroy Meadow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems we ought to have a different color and designate those as special projects of the town.
That's the intention. That has been at least.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Put them in yellow.
So if you can pass that information on to.
Yeah, we'll get another draft and get it in front of you.
The man, yeah. You don't happen to have the library on there, and it may become too many words because that's right in the area of Manhan Meadows, and maybe it's better to leave it off. So, and also you mentioned Wolf Hill. That would be nice to see on there too.
Well, it's around the water of the.
Yeah, it's over there by Alder Pond.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing is a big part, a significant part of the master plan survey talked about water protection. So I know you referenced some of our open space objectives, but including, the survey, I think would be helpful.
Yeah.
And the town meeting, unless something changes because of the pandemic, is the first Tuesday in May.
So that means we can't approve, and it's got to go to vote for the town meeting. We got to all show up and vote for it. But that means CPC money for this project, for the mailing and the printing and all that, will not occur until that, unless we look at another way to pay for it. And a little bit later on, and maybe I could bring it up right now, we got notice of a grant. It's the same grant that Diana worked so hard on a couple of years ago, the neighborhood outreach grant. But it looks to me like that could be considered to pay for something like this, because they have a component in that is for educational kinds of materials. And again, it means applying for it and getting it. But I just wonder if that might get us the money faster, and secondly, not use our CPC money, which we do protect. I was hoping we could look into that a little bit, if people agree.
Let's see, that was in an email that you sent this week or a few weeks ago.
I believe
or Marla did, one or the other.
Maybe Marla did. Perhaps either one of us, or maybe Dan LaValle also sent it out.
Okay.
But I'd like to kind of look into that a little bit to see if that's a way to use that state money versus using our money through CPC. And especially if it can come faster and doesn't require a town vote.
Yeah.
So far, we've had good success with our town because there is a strong emphasis on conservation and water protection, and let's hope that continues. Hasn't always been the case, right?
Yeah.
So,
Cindy, we had talked about putting this maybe as in addition to posters, putting this something in a water bill envelope, maybe. And do we know when those next water bills go out? That could be a time date for us to work backwards from and say this is what we're trying to make happen. I don't know.
I didn't look that up. I don't know when the next one comes out. Does anybody have any idea about when the next water bill might be coming out?
We just paid it recently.
Yeah,
There's one that just came
Every
out,
3
I think.
months.
I think it's quarterly, yeah. But Cindy,
Quarterly?
I
Yes,
hate to
sorry.
keep bringing this up, the money that's at Kestrel, we've used for printing and other things like that before. Maybe we can use the money that's there at Kestrel right now for this project.
It's not going to
Not
be,
enough.
it's not $3,000.
Well, every little bit helps. I mean, other people have donated, not including me. Do we know the balance of that account right now?
I do not know it at this
But
moment.
even if it's $1,000, that would be helpful.
Okay.
I think the last I heard of it, it was about $1,000 when Doric had checked.
Okay.
I would just say that the neighborhood outreach grant, if this is eligible for it from UMass, was very easy to get. They just seemed eager to dispense the money. So, I don't think it was a hardship to get it.
Do you still have your original application so I can plagiarize it?
That was
high level?
completely different. I mean, the focus is sort of different, but it
Yeah.
just seemed like they're, like I said, eager to share the money. So maybe I can look for it in the millions of things I have here, but that focus was really to bring people together, not just to.
Right. They've moved it slightly differently. They even talked about what we had learned at the meetings, which was ways to join together landowners, for example, at coffee clutches, they mentioned that, and going on trail walks and et cetera. We, of course, are hindered by COVID. That's the reality of the way it still is. But nonetheless, there were some other things in there that sounded like options for us to consider. So I do want to look into that grant and see if we can consider utilizing that. In the meantime, maybe it's going to be CPA money. We just don't know at this point. So I think it's a little bit unclear right now what would be the fastest and most efficient way to get those things paid for. And if it goes into the water bill, then that means, well, we wouldn't have to pay postage if it was small enough. It has to be small enough not to exceed their usual postage. We don't want to have double postage. And also, we would be looking to print out many more. Of course, homeowners all get water bills, I think. Do they all get water bills even if you have a well? Do you get a water bill?
No.
Oh, okay, good point. So that would only cover a certain number of people, the ones who are on public water.
But I think that's a majority in town.
I think so.
Yeah. But no, it wouldn't be everybody.
That would be a good question to ask the Water Commission as to what the percentage is with wells and those that are on town water.
Okay.
Well, I think I have that information somewhere too.
Okay. Encyclopedia Diana will have it all. So great. Okay, so Charlie, this is the first draft. Is there any other comments for Charlie specifically to convey back to the PVPC people? All right.
But you wanted to expand on some of the water protection areas, identify Manhan Meadows, maybe get rid of Parcels Memorial, and just generally look it over, and I will forward a hard copy to the committee, and that you can also send back any other, because you might be able to see it a little better.
Yeah, include
Okay.
Woodfield.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add one more thing. At the last meeting, I think Chris brought up the idea that March 22nd is World Water Day. Is there any way we can kind of dream to have this be available, effective on that day, and do some kind of presentation of it? Anybody got thoughts on that?
March 26th.
Well, by then, that's the 22nd of March, we might have a reasonably decent draft of the map that's acceptable to everyone. And we probably will have the verbiage extracted from the documents that I mentioned. There might be only in a Word document. It may not be a brochure that's been printed up because of the money issue, but at least we could come up with something like that, perhaps.
Maybe we could minimally do kind of what happened last week with the candle lighting outside the gazebo. We could possibly have some sort of small event and have the larger maps available for posting, as you said, in the town hall and the library and the school. And that would be just a start, just to draw attention to that for our town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we can keep talking about that, but let's keep March 22nd in our heads. Okay?
And who is doing the neighborhood outreach grant analysis? You're going to do that?
I will look into that. Yep.
Okay.
And that's anything else specific to this topic?
Well, don't forget that the guy in charge of those grants was Dan LaValle's professor, so.
Well, I do know that, and Dan let me know that he's not even in town until this week, I guess 4 or 5 days from now, because there is another thing that he sent out an email on, and I'm specifically speaking of Paul Contazaro. But I will look into the neighborhood outreach grant idea. Very good. I'm going to get off this now. And the next topic is review of lands for conservation. Some of this is just a very quick update on some things, or not, just to tell you. I did take a couple weeks off over the holidays and did stuff with my family, but I've been making some contacts. There's really nothing new regarding map 6, parcels 12A and 21, and map 2, parcels 12 and 6. That is the land that's owned by a local Beagle Club, and there was this possibility that they might want to be selling their land, and we just want to be on their radar if that ever comes up, because that's right next to Clearwater Woodland, and it's also near the property that's we hope to acquire at some point in time. It's in chapter, and it's near the Clearwater Woodland. So there's nothing really specific on that. Another parcel we spoke about is map 6, parcel 6, which is on Lead Mine Road, and it's pretty large. It's 90 plus acres, and that has been for sale for probably a decade. And I think our April told us that the price kind of kept going down and down and down. Well, guess what? There's a purchase and sale already on that property right now. It goes into Easthampton. However, it goes through wetlands. So there's a question about how much of it could be really developed. So that's the status of that. I did attempt to reach the landowner, but I was unsuccessful before that purchase and sale was signed. And that's what I know about that one. Map 23, parcel 7. That is where Little Mountain is. Do people know where Little Mountain is? Because I frankly didn't know where Little Mountain is. If you were to go up Maple Street about half a mile and look to your left, it's the elevation over there. Well, the landowner owns 81 acres, and she has 2 adult daughters. She's owned this land for, maybe a couple decades at this point. She's really fond of the land and sort of conservation minded, but she also has to be aware of the fact that she needs to think about the legacy of what is available for her daughters. She's eager to know what the options are. She's already had a professional development type survey done just to see what the development options would be. And I mean like residential development. So we went and talked with her. She's, it might be something that if we can get a grant, like a land grant or and some other kind of money, and we could string this together with some other properties that are also up there off High Street. And you might recall that our really, our honorable elder citizen in our town, Ted Hendrick, has mentioned that this would be land that the town already owns a small parcel on High Street, right at the junction of Maple Street and High. If you have a visual on that, and you can look on your map for that. But anyway, it goes right up, and then there's a couple of landowners that they don't have any development on it at all. I've written to them, and I think I'd have to do some phone calls and just see what their plans are for that. So that's a project that I'm, going to be eagerly working on. If that was possible, that would make a beautiful strip of land going all the way up towards, and it eventually it connects with other lands that go onto Crooked Ledge, et.cetera. So are you with me as to where it is? Have you all got a sense for where that is? Yeah.
Apps here. Yep, I know.
Yeah. Hey, Diana went with me the other day. Got any additions on that, Diana?
Well, I would just say, I think she is eager to conserve it, and she's trying to be creative about how she could do it. In fact, she even proposed one idea, like if she sold it at less than, say, the appraised value, could she get a property tax break on her own home? And Cindy and I are like, no idea. But, we were like, oh, that's a good idea. But we really don't know. And, it's just hard. It's legal advice that we need to be giving. And she's already had Heritage survey it to tell her what it's worth. So I think we need to be really proactive, but it's just hard to know what to do.
Yeah.
Maybe we should, make an offer or something and say, if would you be interested if we seek a land grant, from the state to try to acquire it, something like that.
I like that idea, Diana, but I also like to add, if possible, those other two parcels that are below it,
Right, but I'm
going to maintain contact with her. She had a question that kind of ended up with the planning board, unrelated to the conservation of her land, a different question. So she and I are going to maintain regular contact. I'm not saying it's something she doesn't have any urgency on, but I don't think it's like she's got to do it right away. But you're right. We don't want her to sort of lean towards development if in fact we could, strike while she's
thinking. Didn't she reach out to us? Didn't she contact us?
Well, she's already contacted Mark Walmsley. He's walked the land with her. She did contact us. She got the letters that I sent out. She, by the way, was very active in our town. She doesn't live in the town any longer. She lives with somebody in Amherst, but her two daughters live in her house on Maple Street. And she's been a very active town resident for a long time. I think I'm going to tell you her name. I don't think it's a really big issue. Her name is Sherry York Whiteley. So you might know those names, Whiteley being a very well-known name, York being a well-known name. She was on the original master plan committee, Chris. If you look at that. And I said, darn thing that we didn't still have you in town. By the way, she did send me a follow-up email or text, Diana, saying that you and I are really hard workers in town, and it's great to have us because, we're, so involved in trying to understand all this. We need to maintain contact with her, and we need to go forward with some kind of a very clear plan.
Mm-hmm. Just one thing, there is something, remember through all that stuff that the webinars that are, being done by UMass now on conserving your land, there is that bargain sale option, right? Which I believe it just means that you're selling it for less than fair market value. But I think it does somehow convert to some sort of a charitable donation or a tax write-off. I'd have to go back and look at it again, but there is an option for something like that. It's called a bargain sale.
I do remember that. I'm going to ask Dan to kind of give me more on that because he did a lot of work when he did that course last year. I will do that.
I attended one of the webinars too. I'll check back on my notes and see if I've got something there.
That'd be
I think
great.
it's reviewed also in that brochure from, that you distributed, that thick thing from the Mass.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's in
Okay.
there.
And that's different than the tax credit?
Yeah, I think it is different than the tax
Yeah.
credit.
Yeah, there's a state tax program, which is a totally different thing.
Oh, all right.
That's the kind of thing that the Hendricks are using right now.
Yes, yeah.
And that's backed up by a couple of years because of the legislature and whatever. Everybody loves it. It's very popular. They will get the credit, but I know the Hendricks haven't seen the finalization of that even today.
Yep.
So, all right. So we definitely want to keep this one very alive. The next thing is you talked earlier about the land on Durrell's Path owned by the town, and the fact that it was recently, there was a forestry activity done there. So the land next door, we have talked about this before, is map 12, parcel 10, 40 acres. So the gentleman that is the owner had attended the neighborhood outreach programs, and he attended the program that we held about almost a year and a half ago to try to get the Friends of Open Space going. And he's a really friendly guy. However, I'm afraid that he's getting a little more confused and, onset of dementia kinds of things. So I spoke to his son in July, who said, well, my dad's living with me now in New Hampshire. And then we sort of had a tentative plan that I was going to follow up with him. Well, I did. I followed up with him today. I spoke to the son. He is the one that's kind of taking over all the business responsibilities for his father. He expressed a strong interest in no longer owning that land. They just got the tax bill. It's assessed at only $33,200 for 40 acres. That's in the assessor's assessment, not, a real estate assessment. But this son is really eager to divest and get money for it. It's not like he can give it. He feels the need to protect his father's assets for his father's needs going forward. And so we kind of talked about whether or not I could help to arrange some kind of an assessment, a value assessment. And boy, $33,000 in the big picture for 40 acres is not a lot, right? Yeah. I did talk to Mark Wamsley later this afternoon to see what his thoughts were on what to do at this point. And he said we should probably be considering just making him an offer or possibly suggesting that he could get 2 or 3 realtors. And I don't think it should be somebody from our committee. I really want to make sure it really looks like we're not sort of steering him in a particular direction. We could give him some names of local realtors, and they could go out there and they could do a market assessment, or how they talk about comps, comparable value of lands, et cetera, to see if it's worth any more. I also let Marla know about this because she's very eager to acquire this land. It's potentially a good spot for a parking space to access Durrell's Path, plus add to that whole Durrell's Path property. And she did talk about how there's an easement, that's the town easement, that could go up through the lower property off the end of Wolcott. You know where I'm talking about, the end of Wolcott going up the mountain there. Charlie, you and I know exactly where it is. We saw a moose there, right?
Yes.
Because people can drive through that easement. It's not an active town road, to my knowledge. I don't believe it is. She's a little concerned that somebody wants to buy this property and put a house there. I don't know how I can really see that, because I don't think it's a developable road, but Marla seems to know a whole lot more than I do about those kinds of things. So that's my thought, that I'm going to go back to the son and suggest that he contact 3 realtors and provide them with the deed and information and being able to get a sense for what the value is, and then come back to us and decide if we want to make an offer and maybe even put this on as a CPC project without applying for a grant, because it might be a reasonable amount. What does this committee think about this?
Is that at all a risky thing to, point someone in the direction of realtors?
How else are we going to find out what the market value is?
So I'm just wondering, if they came in and said, well, you could develop this land and, builders would be willing to give you like $60-something thousand for this property because we can divide it up into blah, blah, blah. Is there access to this property that might have value for a builder?
Well, that's debatable. I will say Marla was concerned that it might have some value for a developer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've had some concern about this. The Lohr property, at the end of Walcott, there's a stream there. And to cross that stream, I think Lohr has built some sort of a trestle. It's about 20, 30 feet long. And I've seen from a distance, because I'm out there more or less every day walking my dog, but I have seen cars going over it. I think Mr. Lohr has his daughter and her husband who have out there frequently. I know them. They have some agriculture associated with blueberries out there. And I'm always been, how do you get from Walcott over to Durrell Path and crossing that stream? Those are things that I have some interest. I think Marla is thinking that shouldn't be a problem, but I've not really, because of whatever the deed was or whatever the right of way that historically has been allowed. But I still have some concerns there. That's all. How that's going to be. How are you going to get cars in there for parking, for example? Because early on, way back when I was on the commission, they were talking about street parking on Walcott and walking in. So that's some of the ideas that are concerns I have about these lots.
Well, where exactly would the parking be if we did own those 40 acres?
The town owns, there's the Lohr property, and then there's Mark Prairie, and then there's 2 smaller lots. They're about 36 acres, and there's another one that's 16. I think, Chris, we saw those when we were coming down. You wanted to go straight, and I took it to the left there to go back to my property.
Yeah.
Those lots are owned by the town. There's 1, 2, 3 lots, one of which is Durrell Path, and the property you're thinking about is above those 2, so they are contiguous. But how you get from Walcott into the town property, because of that stream and that trestle, do you have to have cars going over that? And it's not a town trestle. So those are the issues. I don't know how to access that property other than on foot.
Well,
basically.
Marla said there's an easement on the property.
Yeah.
And we know that some heavy trucks went in there not too many months ago, Charlie. Did you see those trucks?
That's right.
Yeah, did they cross the trestle?
I don't know. This is something I remember being down there talking with Mr. Lohr. This was some years ago. And I saw that trestle I saw that trestle, and I said, if you go to the Mass GIS, you can see the stream too, because that big pond that pond has a stream going out of it, and it goes down towards their house. And that has to be crossed in some manner or means.
Yeah. Well, back to what Rini just asked. Excuse me, were you going to say something else, Rini?
I was just going to say that I went with Marla and somebody else. I think it was somebody else from the conservation, the woman that moved up to the Pacific Northwest. Anyway, we went on the Durrell path and up into our property there. And I think she'd already talked to the Lors and got permission. We all drove our cars over that bridge and parked in the area right before the woods. And then, I don't know, sometime later, my sister was visiting from Maine. So we all took a hike. And so we kind of did the same thing. We went over the Trestle Bridge and parked over there, and they came out and said, you can't do that. You have to go back out and park on Walcott. So that's actually what we did. So I'm not really sure what the easement allows and doesn't allow. I was wondering if there, because of where the land is there some other way to access it without going anywhere near that path and by the Lors house? I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, where did all the logging trucks go in and out? I mean, they've had huge, heavy equipment up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They must have gone.
It's one thing to put trucks in to cut trees, because I think the easement is a wood cutting easement. If I remember, that's the terminology used some years ago. And so, that's I think the laws might be relatively immune to saying, no, you can't go in there with it's just wood cutting, because I think that's the history of the route in there. It might be another thing when you have, you have signage and you say the residents can go in there hiking, that's something different, and making sure that
like we need a lawyer. It sounds like we have to have a lawyer sort it out and say, before money exchanges hands, that we need to know.
Yeah, but I think that, if I'm not mistaken, on the Conservation Commission, when this was all, the Lors came in as a guest to the Conservation Commission when I was a liaison. And I think between Lucy and Marla and a few other people, they were looking in every sort of box of old documents to try to understand information about this whole easement and what was allowed, not allowed. I'm not sure they were able to find anything.
That's true. I talked to Marla today. She said exactly that, Rini. She said they were looking for minutes of select board meetings from 1995. And if the way she put it is there's a safe that was in the old town hall that somehow got open and got wet and moldy, and nobody knows what happened to those minutes. But that would have been the response to an attorney in town that sent a letter to the select board regarding the easement and the access, et cetera. She did not have a paper trail at this point. Chris, were you going to say something? Yeah.
Well, if we know that that used to exist, I mean, yeah, that's 25 years ago now. But if we know the legal firm, could we not approach them to ask for a little bit of research or something to find
it wasn't a legal firm that we engaged. It was it was somebody else. It was an attorney, apparently somebody in town. I don't know who it was. It wasn't like we can go back and say we used you and can you find those papers?
And there's nothing in the registry of deeds in terms of the deed of the property that talks about the easement details?
I can address the law's deed because we have a copy of it, right? Cindy, I sent that to you. And there was nothing in there about an easement on that deed.
Gosh, it sounds a little bit like we hope there's an easement and it's not clear.
Yeah.
But back
Marla is secure though. She's quite secure. So usually Marla knows what she's talking about.
Oh yeah.
But I look at the geography here, and you have to go over that trestle, and you have to, if you can go over that trestle and park on one of the properties and that the town already owns, that's cool because you'd be that should be easy to do. But exactly how you do that with the permission of the laws is the question. That's all. Especially
that's one question, and that's a good one. I will say Marla has never proposed that any of the other town properties would be good parking spots. And I've been hearing her talk about this for a few years now. So she emphatically thinks that the best parking area, maybe because of topography, is actually on this particular parcel 10.
Okay.
And that's where, in fact, she sent an email out to me and Diana just 2 days ago saying, we really need this for the town. So she's pretty excited about the idea of trying to acquire it. Now back to
Can
what,
I just add another aspect of the urgency is now newly restricted trespassing up Pomeroy Mountain from the Cold Spring side, which people have been used to doing for years, and now that owner is opposed to it.
that is related, but kind of on the periphery of this whole discussion. But it would be good to get it. Back to what Rini said about, should we possibly stir up some kind of interest from someone else wanting to buy it? And Charlie, I'm looking at the map, and your neighbors, the ones that I think you told me sold you your property,
Yep.
are right next to this property. I don't know if they're the kind of people that might approach these owners and make them an offer right away, you know, like a private sale situation. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's, you see my lot there.
Yep,
and,
I do.
Crossing Kendra and Gretchen Daish, who was my neighbor, having access across their property to the property they're thinking about. Lot 10, it's 10, is that 10? My
Yes.
eyes on it.
Yes, that's
Anyway,
10. Yes.
there might be a way to talk to them about getting some sort of easement for a hiking trail.
Well,
in
that's if we acquire it, but I'm worried that they might want to acquire it themselves.
I don't think the Daishes would be interested in acquiring it. I don't think they're financially flexible enough to do that.
Okay. Well, back to this. What's the best way to come up with a number to make an offer for this? Shall we ask one of our committee members, either Paula or April, who are both realtors, to give us, you know, they want to make, I know because I asked April to help with another property. She's happy to look at it, but it's kind of a freebie from her. And she's very clear that it's kind of a soft assessment. That's what it is. It's just a kind of an idea of what the potential cost of the land would be. We could do that. Any other ideas on what to do?
No.
Accessing it on town property from Walcott is something that probably needs some legal investigation if Mala's work hasn't proved rigorous enough to warrant purchasing more property.
Also, this is really a question for Rini, because you were so involved with the acquisition of 111 Glendale and also the Pomeroy Meadow property. And Diana, do you think we're going to need a survey? Or do we need a professional survey of this whole thing?
I think before it's sold, you would, but in the initial stages, no. But
And well, I'm saying specifically if the town wanted to buy it.
Well, don't forget the last two ones you mentioned were grant funded, so we had that obligation under the application.
Okay, so it was because of that. Okay. So should I talk to Ed about any of this at this point?
Now, can I just ask you, you said that Mark Walmsley was the one that recommended that you have them or direct them towards real estate agents?
He said that was one way to get a sense. Yeah.
I'm surprised there aren't resources that are, you know, included in a conservation way, you know, like to send them, I mean, it's just surprising that wouldn't be some service that people would do, not because of real estate, but because of conservation.
Well, it's come up more than once. Mark and I are talking to another family of property owners that we've brought up before. That's map 5, parcel 2. And that same question came up. That family, again, is very conservation minded, but they just wanted a sense for the potential sale value. And Mark was right there in the meeting, and he sort of directed us to the idea of what would a realtor say at this point.
Yeah, because there are specific appraisers that do conservation appraisals, though. So, a real estate appraisal is different, I think, than a conservation appraisal, is it not?
I think it is, yeah.
All right, so maybe I can research that or ask.
Well, Mark should know. I mean, he advised part of my family members on a couple things there, or actually somebody else from Conservation Works. I'll send you a note on that. Let me just find a name.
Well, there's Allison Wondrich. No. Rublica, W-R-L.
Yeah, Elizabeth, yes.
Elizabeth, that was her name. She's an attorney, and she joined Conservation Works.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, Chris, that's why I called him, because I even threw out the name Conservation Works and said, how can we work with them? And he didn't steer me in that direction. But if you've got something in your notes, I'll just go around it. And
yeah, let me go back and check on a couple things. She's been helping my brother on some property in Montgomery, so she gave some good advice about who they should talk to and things like that. So,
She was one of our speakers at the neighborhood outreach.
She was.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can you? Do you have that kind of relationship that you could call her up and say, "What do we do in this case?"
Not really a relationship, but I could figure out something maybe. We'll see.
Oh,
Probably you and I should talk so I've got all the details much more clear in my head.
Okay. All right. But from this committee, I need to know, are we in support of the idea of putting this on a high priority for town acquisition?
Yeah,
I am.
Parcel
I
10?
think it checks all the boxes. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's contiguous to other land. I mean, if the whole issue with the easement could be clearer, I think there's a lot of, like Marla thinks that it's, she thinks it should be fast tracked. That says a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, she's said that several times related to this particular parcel. And she's genuinely concerned about this man who's, declining really, and making sure that we get this addressed. Well, now it's in his son's hands. I feel confident the son would love to not get a tax bill. They don't have any use for this land, and they would love to sell it. And he did know what the assessed value was, which was, what did I say, 33.2. So he understands.
And it's not
that.
in chapter, that's correct?
I don't think it is.
I don't think so, no.
That's why he's getting the tax bill.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on. Map 31, parcel 2 is over there on the Easthampton line and over the water source for Easthampton, right next to the Massachusetts Land, Fisheries and Wildlife. And there's only a quick message there that we hope to have a meeting with interested parties within the next few weeks, hopefully before the next meeting. And when I say we, Mark Walmsley plans to call that meeting. Next one is what I just mentioned, map 5, which is way up on the Westhampton line. Parcel 2, it's the 100 acres, the family, and they are interested in a conservation restriction, but they've moved it lower on their priority list. They got a lot going on. So I had an email exchange with one of them and just said, I haven't forgotten you. And I gave them the real estate appraisal that I got actually from April. She was very generous there. And the answer was, thanks very much. And they know we're thinking of them. So that's just on the burner. And then the next one is map 5, parcel 1. And another parcel right below that. Now, some of you, maybe all of you, have the photocopy of a map that was dated 2017. And on that map, there were a lot of property owners' names. Is that the copy you have before you?
That's the one I've got, yeah.
There's a big mistake on that one. When you go to 5, if you go to 5, there's 3 major parcels right there. And one of them is the one right in the middle is parcel 2 that says Dandy Realty LLC. And then on either side of that, there's 1 and 3.
Right.
And there's an error on 3. The owner is not the same owner as the owner of 1. Cross off that. It's owned by Henry Garrick, who lives in Westhampton, but he owns that parcel 3. However, if you go to map 11, which is right below map 5, and you see on the left side, parcel number 1, 85.12 acres, that is also owned by the same people that own the parcel directly above that one or north of that one, which is map 5, parcel 1. And between the two parcels, that's 60 plus 85 acres, so it's like 145, almost 146 acres. Those people came to the neighborhood outreach programs, and I sent them a letter, and I've had a phone call with the wife. Her name is Meg. Very delightful people. They live in New Hampshire, I think. They do. They live in southern New Hampshire, and they are in conversation with a local landowner to buy their parcels. They are convinced, without a shadow of a doubt, that the local landowner will have the same conservation values that they do. I reminded them of one of the other local landowners who's clearly a developer, just because, you know, they own a lot of land, and they said, no, this person is definitely not a developer. And I asked who that was, and they said, we'd like to tell you, but we don't want to tell you until we get permission from the other potential buyer. And that's where it stands right now. Nice open relationship with this woman and myself. And they remember Diana, of course, from the neighborhood outreach. And we don't know what's going on there. It has not been sold to the best of our knowledge because we haven't heard from Martha, and it is in chapter. And so they do know their responsibilities. Martha Leamy sent them the required letter as to what is required. So that's the status of that. I did ask the owners, current owners, to please let any new owners know that the Open Space Committee is very eager to talk with them and understand what their goals are for their lands. And the last one is map 29, parcels 41 and 42. That's on Strong Road. The parcels are directly connected to Labrie Field. It's a total of 9 acres. That landowner, and I'm going to tell you his name because he did it through the website. Well, what he did was he sent an email in response to the posting of the draft open space and recreation plan. That email came to me, and he is Kurt Beaujolais. Do you remember him? He used to be on the Water Commission.
Yeah.
So he owns 3 or 4 different lots along Strong Road there. This used to be a Christmas tree farm, or still is to some extent.
Still is. Yeah, that's where we get our trees.
Yeah, I got mine there this year. Diana and I drove over there. There's still some, you know, they're getting large, big trees over there now. He said he wanted to make sure that the town knew that he could be approached to have us take that land. Mm-hmm. However, I called him up and I said, well, can you be a little more specific? Are you looking at like a donation or what? No, he's looking for money. He's looking to sell it. He's not in any kind of not urgent situation. He talked to Mark Reed, who's the chairperson of the Parks Commission, about this, I don't know when, sometime back, don't know when. Mark's first thought was, well, gee, that's really nice. Maybe it could be overflow parking for Labrie Field. And Kurt was not interested in that because that's like right next to where his son's property is. He's not really eager to see a parking lot there. It is wetlands. So I called Dan LaValle today, who's on Parks Commission, and he is going to be bringing it up at Parks tonight. They need to know because this is, if it was to be acquired, it would be Parks land. He also talked to Marla because it is wetlands. And so we'd hate to see any kind of impervious stuff over it like a parking lot. That's my opinion. It's really a tragedy that all of Labrie Field was ever developed. That's one of the most important wetlands in our town. And just to remind you, at the last town meeting, there was a woman who stood up, and she's a judge she's actually my neighbor. And if you recall, she was strongly in support of us passing the wetlands bylaw because she said as a judge, she says it's so much easier when a town has a very strong bylaw. And so she was so helpful to us. And then she came up to me afterwards and she said, how is it this ever got built over, you know, on Labrie Field ever got built? It's really, really a sad thing from the protection of the wetlands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But okay, so I'm just telling you about this Kurt Beaujolais land. I don't intend to do anything about this at all. I feel like, go ahead, Chris.
No, just what's the parcel number again, Cindy? John?
Map 29, parcel 41 and 42. I think 41 is 7.33 acres and 42 is 1.7 acres. The total value from the assessor's standpoint is about $34,000 for the two parcels together.
Did the landowner mention a price?
Nope, I didn't ask.
Yeah. Didn't think he would. Just.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to acquire. I am saying, from my standpoint, I feel like we got a lot of irons in the fire here. And if the Parks Commission was really crazy to get it for some reason, then we'd work jointly with them. But I'm not taking that on as currently as a project.
Yeah.
We need to respond to it?
No, we don't need to respond to him. He said there's no urgency at all.
Okay. Do they have frontage, the lots?
No.
Oh, so they could not be developed.
No.
Doesn't 41 have some frontage there on Strong Road? Am I seeing it right?
We had trouble finding this the other day.
41, I don't know where 42 is. I haven't found 42 yet, but. Oh my God, I'm not sure.
I know it. They're so tiny, Charlie, aren't they?
I know, yeah, well. Yeah. 41, 7.33 acres. Seems like it has street access to the Strong Road. I'm not sure if the dimensions of the access are adequate, but.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it does. I'm not even seeing it right now for obvious reasons.
Yeah, the 41 has got a very little amount. That's a 7-acre parcel. It's got
Yes.
116 feet, 116 feet by the looks.
Yeah.
And then, what was the other one?
42. Oh, I see that. Okay, yeah.
Well, there's two. There's 42 and 42A, so it's 42.
Yeah.
42 definitely has, it's right on Strong Road. Don't see a measurement there though. Hang on. That looks shorter. That might be 60. I'm not sure. Yeah, not sure.
Okay. Any other discussion about this at this time?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to talk about any of the lands? We've not totally gotten away from looking at your parcels, but I am asking you all to look at your parcels. And now that we've had these multiple meetings about particular activities, I'd like you to look critically at them and see if, I mean, I'm happy to make phone calls and try to make contacts with people. And can we have you do that for the next meeting? Can you be thinking a little bit about that?
23.
Okay. So the next thing on the agenda, I asked you all to think about the goals that the Open Space Committee should be considering for our activities for 2021. I threw out a few at the last meeting, and I didn't know if anybody had any specific goals they wanted to. Let me see. Last meeting I mentioned
You mentioned a pollinator garden.
Yep, I did. I said, I didn't know, these are just thoughts. A community garden, which is different than a pollinator garden. A low salt bylaw. Just continue with our review of land conservation.
Mhm.
And did you say this one, Charlie? A European style walking path?
Well, I like your idea of connecting these lots off of Maple Street. And I wanted to mention that in the other map I was responsible for, this William Locke has, York, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm not supposed to mention their names. I don't
Tell us
know.
what
But
number.
anyway, it's again on map 23 at the far end of the Cheryl York Whiteley property. There's a lot of wetlands there. And
Right, that's Red Brook.
okay. And it's owned by a gentleman named William York.
Yep, that's her brother.
That's her brother. Anyway, that's a connection all the way to wetlands. And I like the idea of having something. You know, we have 7 to 750 acres of property. And I see the residents, especially on Pomeroy Meadow, they're walking, and you see more people walking on those than probably a given weekend than you see on our open space properties over a month. You know, it's so I like the concept of having some in downtown properties that could get to being hiking trails. And I mentioned that you just have to have a path through them. You don't have to, have them as a park like Conan Park, but so people would have a route to go, either to walk or even, push kids and so on their scooters or whatever. But I like that idea, that's all. And that's the far end of that is another piece of property that has water associated with it, wetlands associated with it.
Okay. Well, I think part of the master plan implementation process was looking at ways to connect walking paths, and that was pretty popular, Chris, wasn't it, in terms of the priorities of getting more walking paths in our town, and also accessible paths, if somebody needs to utilize some kind of conveyance of some sort.
And having it downtown too.
Yeah.
And freeing it up for where you have a reasonable concentration of residents and so on. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, we didn't specifically designate just downtown area, but it was brought up. Definitely there was probably more support for that than there was new sidewalks.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, good.
But anyway.
Anybody else have any goals that we can just be kind of putting on a list and start thinking about? Anyone else have thoughts related to our charge, which is...
So many people now are very interested in exercising and like the pickleball thing and that kind of stuff, rather than just doing walking paths. What about a running track or a place to get a little more strenuous exercising? Maybe more tennis courts, something like that instead of just walking.
Well, I think that falls under Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
And I think they've done a good job getting money for the new pickleball courts. I do think it's nice that we can support whatever, but has there been, I'm not a runner, has there anyone heard that runners in town are wishing they had better running areas? I see plenty of runners around.
I see plenty on High Street. Yeah, runners and kids on bikes, maybe a bike path or a dog park or something like that.
There's no
Oh, well,
the bike path will make
is
a
big.
Yeah, that's I'm sure if you got a bike path, you'd see a lot of runners out there too.
And Chris and Diana are pretty deep into that whole thing, getting some money for the acquisition of the land, right, Chris?
Mainly Chris.
Working on it. The application's due February 1st, so.
Who takes care of the flowers along the fence in front of the school, the old school?
That is a private person that's volunteered. For years, it was Terry Barton. She moved out of town. It was Hank Barton's wife. You might have known him. He was on the planning board.
Yeah.
He moved out of town, and she passed it over to somebody else that volunteered to do it. But last year, that person, don't you remember Robert had in his newsletter that, we need somebody to pick that up?
Yeah.
I don't, that's a big job. It's a
And
lot.
they did. Somebody did. I think
Somebody did.
one of them was,
Yeah.
I forget her name. She's a doctor. And they planted corn for a change, remember?
Yeah.
Thinking
Yes.
that,
Saw that, yeah.
yeah, that people,
Well, I
it
think
used to
those
be the
kinds
woman's,
of projects.
yeah, the woman's club was behind it. But,
Even on,
yeah.
even on that parcel on Pomeroy Meadow that's reserved for aquifer preservation.
Yep.
There's 2 acres there, and if you, to me, working with some of the people at Look Park, if you put a small landscaped area there,
Yep.
with plants and a bench, I think that would be something that would impact the residents more, and that's why I think conservation should be.
I think that's great. Actually, Randall agreed to help us put, do some rototilling to turn over the soil. And Chris and I walked to that property, and we got all excited about it and putting in a pollinator garden, plants that are on the list of good pollinators, because that's really important for the bee life of our world, and we need bees. Well, guess what? The Water Commission, I went back to them twice. And I said, I went to Tom, gone. I said, can we do this? And he said, okay. And I said, can we put some like natural fertilizer, i.e. cow manure or something? Nope. Can't put any kind of
Anything on
fertilizer
there,
because it's the water. Because
But I
it's,
still think you could have a pollinator garden.
Oh, yeah.
without-
No, I think COVID hit right at the same time. So, I mean,
That's true.
we didn't go anywhere. I mean, it's, so I think, the idea, hopefully we could, at some point get that going. That would be great.
I like Charlie's idea. I think because so many people do walk there, it would be a great thing to have a little bench and a little, a little patch, decorative
And if you
patch.
got
I
one of
bet
those-
it would be a gathering spot.
Yeah, and in
Okay.
general, I'm working with Look Park and some of my colleagues out there, former colleagues with the landscaping business I used to be associated with, and I got somehow, well, I didn't get rooked into it, but I'm responsible for some of the flowers they're going to be buying. So and it's that's a significant contribution for Look Park in the spring, and I can probably spring fall flowers in some sites like this.
and you could plant them too, Charlie? Yeah.
Oh no, I have a lot of plants here, but I'm not sure I want to get. I'm getting, I'm chronologically gifted compared to you people,
All right. Okay, well, that's good. Let's put that on the list then, the pollinator garden, and we already pretty much have the approval for that.
Okay.
And like I said, Randall will go down and help turn over the soil and stuff.
Yeah.
The other one thought, and I've had this in my head, that the parcel that used to be the Grange Hall, right down, kind of next door to Robert, almost.
Mhm.
It's just, junky weeds right now. It looks like hell, frankly. The town owns it. That might be a nice place to start the small, veggie garden type thing, community garden.
Yeah.
Is there a water source?
Well, I don't know. There must have been something there at one point in time. The Grange Hall certainly had water years ago.
Yeah.
Typically, when you have something like that, you have to be careful about maintenance. If you turn on the water and people don't shut it off, you may end up with problems and so on. So
yeah, and I don't remember even how big the parcel is. It's not very big, but it would just be a start. I mean, it would be the parking lot is on the back side of the police station, obviously, so the parking wouldn't be an issue for people that wanted to come and tend their little parcel, and maybe it's not I don't know, maybe it's not a full, everybody come and plant a parcel because it's not that big, but maybe we could do something and then tie it into the community cupboard or something, whatever we plant could be,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, there's something along that line, but that's just a parcel that's just ugly right in the center of town that has no business whatsoever doing with it. So there ought to be something we could create with that, I think.
Yeah. And also that library building in the middle of town that Bruce Coombs owns, that's a beautiful building.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that we could do to have a bench there with some flowers or something like that, I think that would be a it would make it, it's a real centerpiece as far as architecture is concerned, in my judgment.
Do you know, Bruce? Could you ask him to do it? I mean, that's private property, so.
Yeah, it's private property, but if you're interested in doing something there, what exactly do you want to do? And I can approach him because I've worked with Heritage for years, as it were.
Well, we want him to pay for it. That's the point. We got all these other town lands.
Well, that's ideal, but
Yeah, I think so. That's
but
exactly.
sometimes some of the monies can not necessarily be. We're not talking about big.
That's
amounts.
right. That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
the land that was next to the old Grange, that was bought when we were looking for a place for a public safety complex, when the pendulum swung in the direction of renovate existing buildings. And so when we reached out to different people that live next to, I think you remember the land was purchased near the old fire station too. Anyway, this land was purchased with the idea that it would either be a parking lot, B, another access for emergency vehicles leaving the police station directly onto Route 10, and or a septic system in the event that more would be done with the old town hall. So I think that it was purchased and then just left. And that was maybe less than 5 years ago, but more than 2.
You remember how big it is, Rini, offhand?
I don't. I'm not sure. Not sure.
I have to look at. I should look it up on the map. Have the map if I knew what map it was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It just seems like we at least ought to keep it mowed, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Well,
At a minimum.
Yeah.
Could we do a community garden at 111 Glendale?
There's no open space there. That's all trees.
yeah.
It would take taking down trees. I mean, we have Zipta, but of course we have Fletcher's.
That's water. You can't put any fertilizer on Zipta at all.
And plus it's
85
under contract to be mowed, right?
Yes. Yeah. Fletcher.
85
Yeah.
acres. You would think something could be done over there.
Over where? At Zipta's?
111 Glendale.
It's all trees, 100%. Where would you put it?
I don't know, but it seems like an awful lot of land just to be sitting there for me. I think that'd be a great place for a running track to me or
She's
something.
talking about Zipton, not Clearwater.
No,
She's talking about Clearwater.
Yeah.
No, she said Zipta.
No. What about Zipta? I don't know. I wasn't talking about Zipta.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were.
No, I was talking about 111 Glendale. It seems like an awful lot of land just to be.
It'd be a great walking area,
But
phenomenal.
it's forested land. You'd have to clear it to have any kind of running track or anything. People do run in there, but it's not, it's forested land. That's the purpose of it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's wildlife habitat. And
All right, so let's move on, unless you guys want to throw out some other ideas for goals. We can keep talking about it, and next time I will put up a list.
I'm gonna have to head out, everybody. So good to
I have a
see
quick
you all.
question.
Yep.
Quick question, Rini, because it's next on the agenda. I had said last time that would the select board like a report from the Open Space Committee?
Absolutely.
And so what should I do?
Contact Ed Gibson, because right now we're in the process of having reports. Last select board meeting, we had police, fire, highway, and emergency management director. This coming Tuesday is actually supposed to be Board of Health, water department, and transfer station. So yeah, I think it would just be a matter of getting on the calendar.
Okay, I will do that then. And you told me, most of you got back to me, regarding the town clerk's requirements that we meet the state ethics requirement. I think I covered it all by sending you those emails. Those are our responsibilities to do that. So if you've done it, thank you. And if you haven't done it, please pay attention to it. It's pretty necessary. If you need to go, Rini, I understand.
Okay.
We're not going to spend a whole lot longer on this because I want to go too.
Okay. All right. So long, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Rini.
Take care.
Cindy, in regard to that, I did my certificate and turned it into Lucy for that program that we have to do, the public safety law or whatever.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Turned my certificate into Lucy yesterday.
Okay, great. All right, so there's a couple more screen shares I was gonna do. I want to make sure, did I forward to you?
What about that course? Are we going to take that course?
Yeah, did I? Oh, did I not? I didn't, unfortunately, save it. Holy cow. So, oh, here it is, the brochure. I forwarded the brochure about the Mass Open Space Committee conferences, and you can see this. Can everybody see the screen share here?
Yeah.
Yes? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is 100% free. It's 4 Thursdays in March.
Yeah.
From 2:30 to 3:30, 2 till 3:30 in the afternoon. You have to register in advance. I just cut and paste this to make this little document, but I have the actual brochure. Does anybody need me to forward that to you?
No, I printed it out when you sent it to me. I don't need it.
Says
You have to sign up online.
every Thursday. Okay. Oh, every Thursday in March. Okay.
See, it's March 4th, 11th, 18th, 20th. You don't have to go to all of them. They're in the afternoons on Thursdays. That doesn't always work for everybody. And then there's going to be a networking session at from 7 to 8 every Thursday evening in March. So maybe I'll attend some of those. I did some of these last year, but I'm pretty sure they're they're different speakers, etc. So back to the question, speak up. Does anyone need me to forward this brochure to you?
Not me.
All right, if you need it, then let me know. Great. And then what I had on here were ways that I'm actually going to defer this to another meeting. I want to talk about what educational programs we can think of related to open space and conservation, working in concert with with the Conservation Commission and maybe Friends of Open Space, thinking about educational programs for our town. We are still strapped with the idea that our town hall is closed and we're, in the midst of a pandemic. So that's probably not something we can do till at least autumn. But I want to be thinking about that. Maybe there's so much that we could be offering to our town. So we got to be thinking about that. And I also know that there's a lot of grant application activity going on in our town right now. Chris and Diana are part of a group. But on the other hand, to get these things that we think we want, we're going to have to apply for some grants. Mark Wamsley told me today, again, that Southampton is really on the radar of Kestrel. However, we're not number one. Mount Toby, I think is that in Sunderland, that's number one. And the reason is, he said, that some generous donor gave him like a $250,000 guarantee match, that if they could proceed, and that, what do you want to do, walk away from that opportunity? No, I don't think so. So he was very kind to tell me that, but he said maybe next year Southampton would be their project. So I think that's fine. Time-wise, I think that's fine. Yeah. We've got all of 2021 to do a lot of this groundwork, to make contacts with people, to not miss opportunities, but then to get him to help us with something like a Massachusetts Landscape Partnership grant and carbon credits kind of grant, or some of the other grants that are out there. Okay?
Can we get a document about who's applying for what and what additional grants that are accessible? Is that listed somewhere?
We've started compiling a chart within the grant committee. I can send some things around that are related to open space in particular.
Okay.
A lot of them are park related, but they might have some use for us too.
Okay, that'd be cool.
And then I'm going to share one more thing with you here. This I just cut and paste out of an email. I do need your opinion on this. This was an email that came from Paul Catanzaro of UMass. It came in January, early. And what he's saying is he formerly used to teach a class called Inventory of Local Land. He says, I connected local community leaders in need of a forest inventory to make a conservation decision with UMass students. We often relied on Keystone cooperators to help us identify properties in the inventory as a way to help advance your conference conservation work. Unfortunately, I haven't taught this in a few years. However, he's taken this over this semester, and he's interested in having students inventory a property as they did in the inventory of local land. So he's really looking for some properties to put his students onto. And he's looking for a priority land within 25 miles of UMass. So that's cool. We're within 25 miles, I think. Do we want to, given our discussion of lands, do we want to give him something like Pomeroy Mountain or Little Mountain or something? Does anybody have any thoughts? Or well, I don't want to give him the watershed property because.
No. When he says inventory, what does he actually mean though? Mapping? What?
I haven't talked to him.
No.
I don't know. It's only what's in the, you want me to put that up again?
Because I know that, the guy, the logger that did all the stuff on Pomeroy Mountain, I believe I think he was going to help do some of the trail work. Was he not, Diana, along with the Student Conservation Corps, maybe? If we
I didn't know that. I didn't hear that.
I thought he was going to help map out some of the trails for some reason, this Tom Jenkins guy.
Or maybe.
Yeah, I've heard that before also.
I think so. And then he's going to be going over his next project for Concom will be to go over to Alice Brown and look at a forestry plan there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know exactly what we would have, what other property we would, Parsons Forest that none of us know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the inventory consists of.
My instinct is not that they're talking about a forest inventory. They're talking more about, maybe like a habitat and terrain and stuff like that. A forest inventory would be a forestry student, and that's not what they are.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that. That's why I was curious. Yeah. So with that in mind, would something like Wolf Hill, for example?
Well, we don't need to worry about it. It's already conserved.
Well, that's true. That's true. Okay. So he's looking at...
But the properties on Maple Street, the contiguous properties.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, how do we, what grants would be available for us to consider as urban type properties that are accessible by the residents and have not necessarily highly groomed park, but at least cleared trails, maybe paved, maybe with gravel, whatever, something like that, so people could walk on them with a few benches. And I think the properties don't have to be heavily forested like those that have been mentioned on that contiguous sequence on Maple Street.
It seems like you're talking about a Mass Trails grant to build a trail, but it's maybe a different kind of grant to acquire the land.
There's one, I know there is, excuse me, Diana, I think there is one that is specifically designed for urban structures, urban properties. I've seen that. I don't know where I'd see, but I know it's maybe only $30,000 or something like that. But I think there is such a grant because many towns in Massachusetts don't have the land masses that we have in Southampton. So they do have urban type grants. So I'll just throw that out. I've seen it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I can Google it.
Why don't I contact Paul again?
Yeah.
As a follow-up and say we're interested. Can I say from consensus that we'll kind of zero in on this little mountain area above Maple Street? We don't have to have a vote on it, but that is an area that, there's one parcel that we've already had the landowner express some interest in doing something with it. And then there's two that I could be in touch with. And, then we have something concrete to talk to these landowners about and then find out what he means by inventory.
Yeah. And how big of an area they're willing to tackle.
Yeah. That may be the other limitation is, how many acres are they willing to deal with? Yeah.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I don't know if the other property that we were just talking about with the sun up on Pomeroy Mountain would be a second choice, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll tell them to go to the courthouse and figure out the deeds and all.
Yeah. I mean, just to keep interest of those property owners, to keep them from jumping into a developer. That's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. I'm going to write that one down too. And I can communicate with that son, just to, like you said, keep it alive. Yeah.
One last thing. Did you not? There was something that came up at assessors about property on Edwards Road. That's a different parcel, right? That was.
Oh, I know about that. I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. That it was subdivided.
Yeah, and I think Martha sent the letter out to remind them too about the right of first refusal if they decide to take it out of chapter.
Yeah, she called me, meaning April called me on that, and plus I had a reason to be on the phone with Martha last week.
Okay.
I know exactly what the circumstances, because they came to planning board with the subdivision plan, and it's a situation of that landowner having 3 adult children and want to equally subdivide the land for her children.
Mm-hmm.
So they each have a third of the property. But right now it's still in chapter, I believe. And if it goes to her children, then that's allowed if it should be converted.
Yeah. Just for the record, it's map 5, parcels 1 and 3. And they are in chapter 61.
Oh, no, Chris. Nope. Wrong.
No?
No, you're talking, I corrected.
Oh, the wrong one. Sorry, that's the wrong one. That's the other one you talked about.
Yes.
That's the forest one. Sorry, wrong one.
Yep.
Well, I thought there was another one, though. But there is that other one. I have the wrong coordinates, though. I picked up the wrong set of minutes. I'm sorry.
Yep.
What I was thinking of, I've been on Google here, is a park grant, PARC grant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're due in the summertime. It's one of the next ones we were going to look at and just sort of see what the qualifications are, what's eligible to be applied for. So that's kind of next on my list to research a little bit more.
Cool.
Well, and that's the one that I heard at a seminar Western Mass should apply for, because we hardly ever do.
Yeah.
We never have done anything really.
It says the grant will be used to help municipalities develop new parks, renovate existing parks, and acquire 59 acres of land for park and outdoor recreation purposes.
Yeah. So some of that, the idea was maybe if Conant Park was looking at some renovation or whatever, they were, that would be an idea for them, or, whatever. So we'd be working probably more closely with the Parks Commission, maybe, but it depends on how active they are and what they want to do with their goals too.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Sounds good. When are we meeting again?
Well, you heard me.
Again, I think I'm roped into getting an awful lot of flowers. Bullock Park and
okay, well, that's good to know.
Bullock Park needs a lot of. So if you need flowers, extra, I can
extra.
maybe a few. That's something I can probably swing for.
Okay, so you heard me ask Allison if they would consider changing their meeting to the third Thursday of the month. So next month, let me get my calendar here.
The 11th?
11th or 25th.
So the second Thursday is the 11th. It's only a few weeks from now, but I'd really like to get back on our second Thursday, if that's good for you folks, okay? So we'll do February 11th at 6.
March. No, February 11th, right. I'm sorry.
I'll be out of town, just FYI. But
that's okay.
February 11th.
It would be March 11th too, because it's a 28-day month.
28 days, right?
All right, so February 11th, and
You want to schedule March then? Go ahead and schedule March.
Sure.
Too far away. Okay.
But I will confirm. I don't think Allison was too concerned about changing the date. Didn't get that sense. All right. I guess unless there's any other business that needs to be brought up, anything for anybody?
Is 7 o'clock good for everybody? Or what? Or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock? What time? 6 o'clock, 5:30? What? Is this a good time?
Well, it's been 6 o'clock right along. Does that continue to be good for everyone?
Is that convenient?
Yeah.
I think we'll stay with 6.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's good.
The one person that it was a struggle for was Rini, because she She's
She
one of
has-
those people that still works. Holy cow. And boy, does she work. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, second, Janet.
All right, so we're adjourned at 7:58. Thank you,
It's early
All
for
right.
us.
everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.